Sky Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. And we are wrapping up the expedition from July, which only had three of us there. It was me and Mike and Erin, Lady Liberty, Erin Lane Moffat, who has her own channel on YouTube, and you should go check it out. It's really cool. And if you like conspiracy videos and stuff, she's got a whole bunch of old ones in her backlog catalog that you can go check out. They're all really slick and cool. And she did good research on them and stuff, so you will glean much information. Therefore, it behooves you, ooh, there's that big word, to go check out her channel and watch her videos. And meanwhile, like I said, here she is with us for the first time on my channel. I've been on hers a few times. Welcome to World Bigfoot Radio, Erin Lane Moffat.
Yay, I'm so glad to be here on your channel now, after you've been on mine a few times. And I knew that the caveat was I had to come on a camping trip and search for Bigfoot with you, which I think I sort of accomplished.
Yeah, you did a really good job on that one, because even though it was low activity compared to the month before when we had Papa Craig up there, we still had us following him around. And apparently you caught some on video, because you put your video out right away, and we haven't even put out the video that we did from it yet. And immediately some of my friends took a look at it, and Bama Bigfoot found one that was over near the Asterisk structure on the other side of the river that you apparently caught on video. And she hasn't sent me a screen capture of that one yet. But Blaine Tyler right away found two, and in the same, I think exactly the same timestamp, I found a third one way over on the right-hand side. They were all down at the base of a big ridge line watching you as you were filming and talking. So congratulations. Apparently you caught some on video the first time out. We're going to have to try and find the same spot if we can, and try and get a comparison if we can. You know what that area looked like, so it's going to be really hard to figure that one out.
You get a few scratches and scrapes doing this kind of hiking. There's just no main trail. Let's see if they photobomb me. Yeah, I was going to say, that will be up to you guys, because you seem to know where you are going. And I even recorded in my video that I said, this is how you guys were telling me how you knew where you were. You were looking at ridge lines, and you just walked in pretty much, I would say you walked in like you knew where you were going. What I didn't expect, for some reason, I wouldn't say like I expected we were going to be on a nice, easy trail, but I didn't think about how unnice and not a trail it's going to be. So I'm like, I got scratched up a few times, you know, the shins and the thighs, but it was totally worth it, because it was so pretty, and looking at all the areas that you don't normally see because you're just driving by or you're walking on a man-made trail already, that was a very fun part of it. And then I would have never found that stuff. For you guys to get back there and do what you do, it's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. Yeah, what impresses me more is that we can actually find it again a second time.
Exactly.
We're not taking GPS coordinates or anything. We're up in a bowl in the middle of a mountain range. We literally can't do that. We have to just memorize where it is and go, well, how exactly did we get here? We'll have to follow that exact path to get here the next time, and then wander around a little bit and get the lay of the land, so we can kind of randomly wander in from other directions and hopefully find it again. But usually we got to be to these things 3, 4 times before we could like for sure find them again.
Right, because there was one place we stopped and we walked up and you're like, no, this isn't it. We got to go further. And then you found it. But, it's not like 4, 5, 6 times because you guys have done it enough at least that you get a lay of the land pretty fast. If I was out there, I'd have been lost before I would have been lost out there trying to do that kind of stuff and would not have known how to get back. So it's good to be with people like you because I had no fear. I completely trusted everything you guys were doing and everywhere we were going. But again, it was just a little bit more difficult than I thought. It was like, completely off terrain, climbing over rocks, climbing over logs. There's no trail out there, not unless it's an animal trail, which is not really for humans.
Yeah, and as you may have noticed when we were going to some of those, there weren't even game trails going anywhere near them. The giant teepee that we took you to that they've still got under construction, there isn't even a deer trail anywhere near that thing. It's just
That's
hidden
true.
down in the base of this valley, what, about a quarter mile, half a mile from the nearest road or
Yeah.
something. And then, like, yeah. And the other thing is that, we have to, when we have people up there that aren't usually running around the woods, we try to keep an eye on them. And creepily enough, when you were filming that piece of video where you were showing your scratched up legs and had the guys down the ridgeline from you watching you, apparently, that was when you got too far away from us and we couldn't see you. And we started yelling for you so you would come in our direction.
That wasn't the only time. There was another time where I thought I was going up this hill and I thought you guys were too. And pretty soon you guys are not in hearing distance or yelling distance. And I'm like, hello, Duke, Mike. And it was probably about 5 yells that I finally got a return yell. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I, I wandered. So there was a couple of times where I know I was not within earshot or kill shot, and I was getting a little nervous. I'm like, I gotta stay closer to these guys. But you get to where I think I know where I'm going all of a sudden. I think I'm going the same way, or I think I know where you're going, and yeah, you totally turned around in there.
Yeah, generally when we're going to one of those things, if we haven't been there a bunch of times, we'll straight line it. We will go direct, straight line, whatever, go over it, get there straight line. After we've been there enough times where we know what the lay of the land is, we can do all kinds of weird zigzag lines and wander over here and then wander back and go this way a ways and wander back, and we know exactly where it is, so we'll end up there. But if you were following our path, it would seem like we were just wandering randomly around. And how the heck did they end up over here where this thing is?
That's exactly what I thought. I would have never gone that far too, because it's not like a 5 minute off the trail. So if anyone has not, just for anyone who hasn't done this, which probably a lot of people have, so I'm maybe preaching to the choir, but since I haven't, just to give my experiences, it's not like we're going to just jump off the trail and kind of still be by the trail. It's completely off, crossing rivers, going over, like I said, going over logs and things that I wouldn't even ever want to try to go that way. I'd be like, well, that's not a path to go on because look at all the wood in the way. And you guys are like, oh, that's the path we want to go on because look at all the deadfall. That's not normal. And I'm like, okay. So I even had this point where I filmed what looked like a fence. It looked like wood, and it didn't look like a fence like we would lay, where one was this way and then one was this way, where they would lay them that way. But it looked like a whole bunch were this way and a whole bunch were this way. And I said it would be hard. Most people wouldn't want to go there. So I'm like, it could easily be a deterrent. It could be a way to keep people from something, because most people wouldn't want to go through that or walk around it or over it.
Yeah, and we're leaning heavily toward that notion. We've actually got confirms on that from researchers in other parts of the country now that when they have big superstructures or mega structures, they will tend to knock down lots of timber around it or drag in some just to make it so impassable that dumb humans don't want to randomly wander in there and see what's there. Well, there's no trail. So what's the only reason for a human to go in there? Well, if they're hunting. Okay, but if you shoot a game animal, you have to quarter it and haul it out over all of
Yeah.
those damn fallen trees and everything. So again, this is one of those factors that makes hunters go, I don't care if there's a huge animal in there. I don't want to go in there because if I shoot them, I've got to try and drag them back out again. Whether in pieces or not, it's going to be a nightmare. It's not worth it.
That was certainly my thought. I'm like again, I'm repeating myself, but these aren't places I would just look at and go, I want to hike over there. I would never
Just
do it.
just the opposite. And that's what we've
All right.
discovered through trial and error, that those places that look like really spooky, creepy, you know, dangerous, don't go there. Well, that's where they're hanging out. That's where they got their stuff at. It
Yeah.
looks like that for a reason. They're trying to
And
keep you out.
you guys went up, there's a lot of steep embankments too. So there's a lot of hill climbing, and it's not just like a little hill, it's steep. It's hard to go up, it's hard to come down.
Yeah. And there's no trail. So while you're climbing
Right.
the steep hill, you're stepping over logs and going around boulders, and you can't go in a straight line. So, and you're not on a trail. So your sense of reckoning in which direction you're going better be pretty good, or you're rapidly going to be completely lost.
Right, which is why I would never do it by myself. But I felt totally good about it with you guys because I knew you had been out there several times. I've watched your videos, so I know you know what you're doing. And that was the nice part, is I was completely at ease the whole time. I really enjoyed it. I felt very positive the whole time. I trusted everything we were doing, and it was a pleasant surprise to come upon structures I guess didn't click watching videos or something, because until you're there, it's almost like, oh, yeah, some logs falling that look kind of like a teepee, and then you get there and you're like, that's weird. That one's sitting in a way that doesn't look like it just fell like that, because then there's another one right underneath it, or it's jammed into, like, you know how the tree split up? Yeah, I'm sure you understand. Like, you've seen that a million times. How the tree is like one tree, then it splits into two a lot.
Yeah.
It'll be like just set in there in a certain way, or how it just splits off this way and it's set in there in a certain way. I'm like, that would just, and then for 'em all to fall together in a teepee like fashion, once you get there and you actually see it with your own eyes, it starts to look pretty interesting. And even, you know, I'm a little bit skeptical, but my very skeptical family, I showed my dad, and my dad's like, that is interesting. I said, look at, I zooming into the trees. I go, that's weird how that just fell together. And he's like, that is pretty interesting.
Yeah, the other thing is most all those structures, and good for you to notice this and point it out, a lot of them have those trees that have that Y at the top of them. And that's why they're making the structure there, because they can lean another one against it. And that's their basic support for all the other stuff they're going to slap on it afterwards. And when you were there, you know, first of all, you came in walking from the bottom of it, seeing it from the bottom. And when you walk in from the bottom, you don't even hardly notice it's there because it's just too gigantic. And then you look up and go, oh my God, what am I standing underneath right now? Well, I was up on the ridgeline filming when Aaron came walking in. So you get a good look at the scale on that. The first time Michael found it was the month before. They had just built it since last year, apparently. And he was underneath it. And I was trying to like zoom in on Mike and then zoom out and show the whole structure. And I couldn't find him. Like, Mike, step out in the open, wave your arm so I can see where you're at, because you're too tiny at the base of this thing. I can't pick out where you're at. Then I can zoom in on him and zoom out so you can see how big this is. But I'm basically up at the top of the ridge line, and that's what the top of this thing is. It's like
Yeah.
straight across from me, so absolutely enormous. And the year before when we were there, that was an X structure. There was just a big X there. Well, now
Right.
since we were there last year, here's all these other things that have been laid on it. And when you and me and Mike were there, as Mike pointed out, because he had the video still on his cell phone, and he looked at it and compared it and went, this 40-foot pine tree that's perfectly healthy was standing straight up a month ago when we were here. Now the top of it is bent over 25 feet away underneath the teepee. There was no storms in between. How does that happen?
Which is another thing of note, that, so when I showed it to my parents, my dad, and he wouldn't mind me saying this because they know I have a YouTube channel and I talk about them and they watch my videos, so they don't mind being in on the conversation. But one thing he said, well, so it looked like a teepee enough to him, right? That he's like, well, it could have been built a long time ago, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, these guys have video from just a little while ago where it wasn't there. And so then my dad was even kind of more impressed, because you could see that this thing was at least, I don't know, 20 or 30 feet tall altogether, maybe 30
A
feet.
lot bigger than that. The little one down the river is about 30 feet high to the apex, and this thing's more like 40 or 50.
Yeah. So, to put that up, somebody would have to first want to walk over all the logs and all the hills to get out there, and basically the middle of nowhere, to put up something that pretty much no one would ever see. So
And how are they going to push those giant trees over? Because that's
yeah,
the other thing. They
yeah.
were in the ground. Something or some force pushed them all over toward a center point. And if you recall, the second time that you got separated from us and we had to wait for you to catch up, which is before we got to the giant teepee, Mike was walking around and he was filming the hillside, and there was like a big pile of boulders with a whole bunch of timber laying on it. And he went over to make sure that it was just natural, which it was.
Mhm.
But while he was over there, I said, yeah, a bunch of this deadfall here wasn't even here last month when we were here. This is all new, and there hasn't been any storms coming through here. And you said, yeah, it would take a heck of a wind to knock these trees down. And I said, yeah, turn around and look. It's 30 feet behind you. There's two huge trees, and they're like that big around in opposite directions from each other. So a
Yeah.
windstorm doesn't knock trees down in opposite directions.
Not unless it's a tornado.
Yeah, and no sign of tornado because no twisted, fluted
Yeah.
trees
Well,
torn
there's
up
also
there,
no
shredded
tornado.
pieces.
I don't know that there's ever been a tornado in the mountains of Montana.
Probably not. If there was, it was a rare freak occurrence, and it hit Jim Bridger back in the olden days, and that's
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. But speaking of twisted, we did see like a interestingly twisted tree that was twisted and then down, if you recall. And we
yeah,
pulled over and I said, I want to take a picture of that because I don't think, now again, to be fair, when I go hiking, I'm not like looking at every tree and everything and going, whoa, you know, the way you guys do, because I've never thought about that before when I've been out hiking. But also, that was significantly different because I can safely say if I would have saw a tree twisted and bent the way it was, I would have been like, wow, I wonder what did that. That's pretty
uh-huh.
odd for it to be twisted around and bent. And did you say that's a common thing that you see, or is that not common?
No, that's as far as like live trees that have been twist broken, they do that fairly regularly. Sometimes they'll just snap a tree off, and sometimes they'll actually twist it when they snap it. So it's not only broken, but you can tell the tree is twisted as well. That's pretty much a dead giveaway. Storms don't usually do that. They may
Right.
snap a tree over, but again, if you've got a live green tree that's, like that big around, and it's still got leaves on it and everything, and it's snapped like 8 feet up, really it's got to be a creature. Well, it's got to be a creature. There's no other explanation for it, because if it was had some kind of a disease or something, they tend to snap off at the base
Mm-hmm.
and they leave a stump there. There's something wrong with the tree. If it got marred part way up and like part of it was knocked out by something, you would see that where it snapped. It would be obvious that it had been damaged at some point in the past and it had snapped there as a result of it. If you get a big windstorm that comes through, sometimes it'll take off the top of the tree. Or, like again, if the tree is old and whatever, the whole tree will snap off pretty much right at the base and you'll have a stump there. It's incredibly rare that you get a tree snapped 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet up that's perfectly healthy, that's, like 4 or 5 inches in diameter. Nothing else around it is broken. Really, the most prime explanation for that is bears, which will mess around with trees and just play with them and break them, or climb part way up and, oh, I'm too heavy, it's leaning over, now it's snapped, that kind of stuff. But again, it's like that shouldn't be very common. Something with a hand grabbed it and went, that's what did it. And there you can find them both directions. And what we've figured out is that not only are they trail markers, but a good percentage of the times when they snap it and twist it, there's something else off to the side in the direction that it's twisted toward, in addition to whatever is directly ahead of you that it's laying over facing. So that's how they do like a Y marker in a road. If it
Oh,
goes to the right, they'll snap it that way.
hmm. They must have um, pretty tough feet and everything because they're not making trails, right? Like you don't notice trails.
No, we actually have found a couple spots where they were so well used that they had actually left it like a game trail that's exactly as wide as their foot, because they do a tightrope walk. They don't walk side by side like we do. They tightrope walk. So
Mhm.
they'll leave a perfectly straight trail that's just as wide as their foot is. Generally, other animals won't use it, but most of the time they won't even do that because they don't want to leave any sign that they're going through an area regularly. So if there's like a tree snap there that's marking it's a trail, if you look around, you might find individual tracks, and they could be 15, 25 feet apart from each other in width. It's not like there's a trail there. It's like it's a runway somewhere within this area near enough where they can see the tree. They'll be walking through there. But they generally try to not walk single file. not step in the same place twice.
Right.
Don't leave any marks that you're there. So if you're finding an actual Bigfoot trail, like I've only found 2 ever. That's in an area where there's really a lot of them living there, and there's no damn humans at all, because they're very confident you're not going to find their trail.
Yeah, must be some deep walking into the mountains to find that probably.
Yep, and that's where we find them, middle of nowhere, up in the mountains. What's this weird looking trail? Oh, look, it's got Bigfoot tracks on it, and no deer tracks, and no elk tracks, and no elk poop, and no deer poop, and no any other animal poop.
Yeah, I didn't notice any animal poop. I didn't know. So, okay, so that makes me ask, what about Sasquatch poop?
Yeah, what about it? We don't know exactly what they do, although we've had reports of people witnessing them going to the bathroom in rivers. So it's possible that they just find the nearest water and take a plop there where you're not going to find it or whatever. Some of them might just bury it too. Kevin taught Glag to bury it. So anyway, what are your best memories of the expedition? I know the first night we got there was kind of you and me, let's set up, quick, make a fire. Where the hell is Mike? It's after dark. Mike still isn't here. Well, I'm going to start cooking some burgers.
That was probably one of the best parts, is that you had burgers made that you cooked for me and you, and I really appreciate that. I don't know if people understand that if you're going out in the middle of nowhere, you probably bring in some of your own food, but to have burgers, that's like cuisine out camping, I think. So I was pretty excited about that. Plus, I love burgers, so that was cool. And then when Mike did come, his tent was really fun. His teepee that he had, and then he had hotel blankets
with his little interior lights on it.
Yes, he had interior lights. He had like hotel blankets. He had a hotel comforter, and I'm taking pictures. I'm like, we're really not roughing it that bad, because then I've got this huge tent, right, that could have slept about like 15 of us, and you got this little tiny tent that's right behind my huge tent, but. I've got
you didn't even have a tent. That was a canvas palace,
castle.
Is what you had.
Castle.
You could run laps in it.
I exercised in there, done my high knees. I mean, because it was definitely tall enough to stand in. But I guess, it's fun to go to a new place. I got cold enough in the second night, that I had to put my leather work mittens on my feet. And I've never gotten that cold camping before, but I was like, it's a little colder up here than I'm used to at night. So you could tell that was a big difference. But just coming into, Hamilton. Hamilton was such a pretty town. And I was like, man, I could live in a place like Hamilton, even though it's still in a town, but it's such a small town. And it's far enough away from Missoula that, it's fairly safe from some of the lefty types in Missoula. But it was such a beautiful sunset with the mountains right there on the right, and then we're going into the mountains on the left. And to be in a new area, to experience, I'm from Montana, born and raised, and I've camped and done so many things in so many places, but never in these mountains. And remind me the name of this mountain range area. Sapphire, yeah. I never had even heard of them. And then when I drive out into Phillipsburg and then over into Anaconda. I lived near Anaconda for a while, and I'm like, I've never done this drive. This is just phenomenal. Really nice coming out, much easier than going in. Because you go in one way and then drive out the back way. But, I love new experiences. Probably the best part was hanging out with new friends, even though we've known each other. For us to hang out and camp together is something we haven't done. To have that new experience with people you already trust, that you already get along with, both with a great sense of humor, because Mike had that shirt on that said, "Sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of my freedom," I think it said. Something like that.
Yes, you remembered it word for word.
I'm like, these are the people I want to be around, and this is the community I want. And that was a pretty special thing to know. This is just as fun, well, more fun in person and camping and just everything I would have thought when I started trying to create a community and network of friends. And I'm not saying you came to me because I created it. What I'm saying is it's been in the Lord's hands. That when I prayed for a community of like-minded people, He brought together people like us into a place where most of the things we believe in and think we agree on, but sure, we have some things that we don't, but overall, we care about each other. We have fun together. We have a good sense of humor. So there were so many things that I could point out that were little, but overall, the whole experience was fun because new friends, maybe new Bigfoot friends at some point, who knows, but just in a new place to be.
Oh, I'm sure if you come back and visit, they'll follow you around again. No question about that.
Hey, you know, I'll probably be scratching up my legs again and talking about it, and they might be like, huh?
Hey, it's a scratched leg lady. She's back to visit us again. This is awesome.
And she's still not wearing pants and wearing shorts.
What's
wrong with her? She's still scratching legs and wearing short shorts. Is she not thinking?
Well, you know, it's kind of like you got the trade-off there. It's going to be pretty hot for wearing long pants. But if you don't have long pants on, it's not so hot. But then you scratch up your legs, and every fly in the universe shows up and attacks you.
And well, like you said, it's hot too. And, you know, and at night, not so much. You know, definitely if you guys ever come out to Montana to do this with Duke, you've got to bring your cold weather clothes too, because as hot as it is in the day, and you were saying you went again recently, and it was even colder at night.
Yeah. We went up to Boulder, Montana to do a megalith expedition there and see what we could find there. And that, of course, there's a burning ban on. Yeah, and it was 30 degrees. So yeah, nice and cold. No fire.
The other thing that was fun was just doing something different, getting off trail. But when we climbed up and found those boulders, that boulder wall, it made me kind of think of like giants and mud fossils, even though that's not really what we were looking for. But I was like, this is kind of cool because you look at this big rock wall, and Mike was showing that it looks like there's a mortar in there between the rocks.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I tried to take a good picture, but I couldn't get, the picture just didn't show it up like it looked. But you could see that it was a different material between these rocks, and I don't know what that is or who did it or what laid it, but I'm like, makes me think of giants and, you know, I don't know, mud fossils or something.
Well, same thing with the megalith area that we were at, you know, even though it's what is it, like 40 miles or something, really big, long area of these ridge lines that are all strewn with boulders. It's a batholith area. So you would expect that some of them are going to be piled in weird arrangements and that there might be, you know, some of them that look a little bit odd. But yeah, some of these are like extremely odd looking, just do not look natural. And that was one of the reasons we went out there to take a look at it. And from what we can tell, they probably are natural because we can't see any indicators that they aren't. But those rocks have some very peculiar qualities to them too. I mean, they like ring. If you can hit them with your fist and they'll ring. That's kind of not normal.
That would definitely not be normal.
Yeah, we got actually Hawk doing that on video at one point. There's one that's kind of cupped, and there's this shark tooth shaped one about 7 feet tall sitting in it, and he's standing right next to it going bing, 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 with his fist on it. It's like, I don't know how this happens, but here, I'm filming it.
That would have been kind of fun, but no, yeah. Just seeing, and then there was not just that rock wall, there was other rocks laid on certain, and I'm not saying they're natural or not natural. What I found was it was fun because they just look different. You don't go out and see these, they're big rocks. We're not talking like little rocks. So you know how people find all those little rocks piled in a little pile that's supposed to be a marker for a trail or something? These were really big boulders.
Yeah.
They were placed in such a way that some of them I thought even looked kind of like an animal. And then there was one that had like a little cave thing through it that you could probably crawl through. I took pictures from both sides. I don't know. I mean, just neat stuff. Just even if God made it, it's phenomenal what God creates and the creatures that he puts on this earth and what they can create or what they get accomplished. It was pretty phenomenal.
Well, same thing when we were doing the megalith climb out there and running around looking at those things. You guys go back and look at the video because some of these, you know, you see a picture from a distance and you go, wow, that's an interesting pile of rocks. And then you're standing next to it filming and you're like, yeah, the rock on the left-hand side, that's like 50 feet tall. I'm standing right next to it. You know, there's like multiple levels on this thing you can climb up on. This thing is ginormous. This isn't just some little teeny jumble of pebbles here.
Yeah. Yeah, big, huge. And then it was also at one of the times you guys were talking about, or Mike was maybe saying, he was explaining that's how you know where you are, is there was a bunch of boulders in a different area that was on a ridge line. And that's how you could remember. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking at those boulders thinking, I'm not sure I would recognize them again. But you guys do.
Yeah, that's our dead giveaway for where the Super X used to be until they took that down. Because that was, There's a twisted tree that was burned at some point, still standing. And then right adjacent to that, there's 7 big boulders in a row. And then right over the ridge line from that, that's where that super axe used to be standing. So that was how we could remember where it was. Because look for these landmarks. When you find these two, it's right there. So that's what threw Mike when he went up there in June to take everybody up there and show it to him. And it was shortly before dark, and they couldn't find it. And he's like, "Well, what the heck? Here's the boulders. Why? Where's the super axe?"
Yeah.
Well, you're in the right place. It just isn't there anymore, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's why I'm glad I had knowledgeable scout leaders, because I would have gone in there and gotten lost myself. Again, I wouldn't have done it. I just wouldn't have gone and looked in those areas and go, I need to go that way. Just not where most people would want to go.
Now, for full disclosure, the first time that we found that super axe, you know how we found it? Because we were lost.
Right. But then you're lost, and then now you're starting to have to really look at landmarks. You're like, well, now I'm lost, but I want to get back here when I find out where I am.
Well, the reason we found it is because we went, well, the easiest way to get our bearings is to go to the highest point near here. Get up to the top of it, then we can see where the base of the valley is, and we know which direction to go to get back to the trail. So that's literally what we were doing. We were going up that mountain to get up to the top of it to get a sight of where we were, and we just happened to walk right into that super axe. And there's a couple more really stunning things further up from there that we haven't been back and looked at that we need to go and check out again, actually.
You know, this summer went by so fast too, and you couldn't have fires for most of the summer where I am. Where you were, we were still lucky to have fires when I got there. But that last night I was there was the last night you guys were allowed to have fires.
Yeah.
So they stopped that. And not that we have to have a fire to do these things, but it's just nice because we were talking about, it gets cold at night. But next summer it would be fun to start planning early, and then these dates aside, book those dates, and then get it going in like June. Even though June this year was still pretty cold, but once you're committed, you'll pack the clothes you need, get the stuff.
Well, go look at the video of me and Papa Craig coming over the pass in June, and this is the middle of June, and you can see our breath. And there's snow on the trees.
Yes. And it's funny because I lived in Crested Butte, Colorado, which is over 9,000 feet. And I really loved it then. I was like, this is great. I just love this. But, I'm not used to it as much anymore. And it's been extra hot here. So there's some of that too. But
yeah, you're used to it being like 105 degrees. And then you're like, let's go camping. And it's 30 degrees.
I was used to this in the winter. I'm not used to it now.
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I don't think there's a whole lot of people up there doing this kind of thing, because 60-degree temperature variation in one day. Mm-hmm. It could be 90 in the afternoon. Oh, it's going to be 30 at night.
Yeah, and that's a big difference. Even if you're used to it, it's a big difference for your body. You could say, "Oh, I can handle it because I do this," but your body is like, I'm not ready for this.
We're so used to doing it too. We'll be like, oh, it's getting close to dark. Put the shirt on. Oh, it's about a half an hour dark. Put on the hoodie. It's about an hour and a half after dark. Put on the winter jacket. Now put on the extra socks and put on the moon boots. And then it's like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, leave everything but the boots on. Crawl into the sleeping bag. Throw extra blankets over you. As soon as the sun comes up, you're like taking stuff off, whipping it out of the tent.
Yep, again, that's a big reason why you want to have fires, because before the sun comes up, the sun doesn't come up very early. So I know a lot of people probably live near the mountains, but maybe they don't. So if you don't know, the sun doesn't actually come up till like almost noon sometimes, because you're in the mountains and the peaks are really high, and so while the sun is up and there's daylight, the sun is not shining on you at all.
Yeah. No, the first time I was up there this year with Papa Craig, I was watching it because it had gotten so cold that night, frost had formed on the ground. And the sun had been up for a long time, but it wasn't up high enough in the sky that light rays were directly hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Everything was lit up. And after about an hour and a half, I was watching it, and as the sun was creeping down the ridge line, coming toward camp, you ever wondered about that mist that you see coming off the mountains and stuff? Well, here's what makes it. Because that's exactly what makes it. I was watching across the road from camp, and as the sun rays hit the glistening frost on the ground over there, it instantly vaporized, turned into fog, and started rising from the ground, like within 30 seconds. It was so cool looking. And that's out of all the gazillion times I've been camping, that's the only time I've ever seen that actually.
And it makes it all worthwhile at that point, as long as you don't die overnight from the freezing cold. But Mike was really brave because he got in and swam in the river, and even in the middle of July, I was like, still too cold for me. Like, I'll cross it, but I'm not swimming in it.
Yeah. Yeah. We took Sushi swimming in the river too. That was fun.
Oh, of course, yeah, Sushi the bearded dragon. How could I forget?
Sushi the adventure dragon.
So cute because my daughter Saoirse, her nickname is Sushi. So it kept making me think of her every time we talked about sushi. I'm like, where? Oh, the bearded dragon.
Yeah, me and Mike had to keep an eye on him. He got in the river about like 75, 80 feet downriver from me, and then I'd go to wade out in the middle of the river about chest deep and put Sushi in the river, and he would just swim down the river to Mike. Mike could grab him. And then I go down and collect him up and walk back up the river again, drop him again, so he could swim back down the river to Mike again.
So he was having a blast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was too cold for him, too, though. He wanted to go out and sun himself for about 10 minutes and warm up. And then he went down the bank and he, like, crawled into the water and immediately turned around and came back out again.
Like, yeah, I'm good.
Well, I really want to go swimming, but this is really cold.
He's cold-blooded.
Yeah.
You know, that's and we're not, and yet it was still too cold for me. But again, like, you know, fun experience, great weather. We didn't have any clouds, we didn't have any rain, which would have been good for, I know, for the state, but it was nice for camping not to have any of that. We were still allowed to have fires. But other than that, as far as activity on my end of knowing, I didn't notice anything, and then you guys kind of reiterated that you didn't notice anything. So I was like, well, I guess it just was one of those weekends where they're just not out. They're not hanging out and not to be seen. But like you guys said, if we go through some of the footage, there apparently is some things to be seen.
Yeah, they're probably there. It's one of those times where they're like not all that interested in you or what you're doing until you go walking around on their turf. You start walking around by where their megastructures and stuff are, then they're watching you. They're following you around. That's when you're liable to catch them on video.
Considerably good luck for a first time catching some things on video. And oh, and we can't forget, you know, we did have one encounter where we told them, what do you think about crypto? And they were like, cryptids for crypto.
Yeah, because they're totally in favor of that, because crypto coin doesn't require that you cut down any trees to make paper money out of.
Yeah,
So
they
cryptids are
gave
in
us a
favor of
thumbs
it.
up on that.
We should actually, I want to bring that up here, and this is something that Erin does on her channel. She's not only about the conspiracy theories and the, you know, Bible studies on the weekend and that kind of stuff, but she also does, hey, let's be smart and invest. And for a long time, she was doing gold and silver, and then one of her friends talked to her about this new cryptocurrency that Bigfoot's issuing, cryptocurrency that's being issued by the cowboy state of Wyoming. And she got interested in it and started getting involved, and it actually worked out really good for her. She just bought herself a school bus to convert and paid for $2 to go to school for the winter. What you made off it, like what, last winter?
Yeah, in just under 6 months.
Under 6 months. So anyway, I'm going to give her the floor here because I'm also invested. A bunch of my friends have invested in this. If you're not interested in hearing about this, just skip this part. But really, you should probably listen because you know how volatile everything is right now, and how the fiat currency is going to either completely tank or lose most of its value, and what you saved up won't be worth anything. Here's a great way to hedge against these problems. So please give yourself 10 minutes of attention to what Erin's about to tell you. And if you're still interested, then go over to her channel. She does big breakdowns on this stuff, talks about it all the time. You get all the info that you need over there. And with that, take it away. Tell us all about Bigfoot's favorite cryptid coin.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the fact that it's registered in Wyoming is a big deal. The reason that matters is because people, if you're even interested in looking at crypto, which a lot of people are, they don't know where to start. And they don't want to buy something that's going to go belly up or become a fraud. And if it's not even registered in the United States, how do you know what you're dealing with? But even if it is registered in the United States, how do you know what you're dealing with? The state of Wyoming, the people of Wyoming voted for cryptocurrency laws so that small businesses, big businesses, even their banks could utilize cryptocurrency as a form of currency, because that's what it was originally supposed to be created for, Duke. And I know you know that, because it wasn't really supposed to be a market asset like Bitcoin and Ethereum, where it does these ups and downs and you got to buy on the dip. And this is just market watch stuff, and I don't want to do that. And
right, and they're speculative, like I'd like to interject and point out right now, just recently Bitcoin lost like 40% of its value. First you got Elon going, oh, Bitcoin sucks, boop, there goes like 10%. And then China going, no more crypto mining, boop, there goes another 30%. Well, that tells me that's very speculative. And during the same time that was happening, WCL gained, didn't lose anything.
Right, which is our crypto company, in case anyone was wondering what that is. So it's the company that markets the crypto is called World Crypto Life, but the coin itself is called the iMoney Crypto, IMC. And again, the fact that legislature was voted in by the people of Wyoming to be for this, a lot of cryptocurrencies want Wyoming to be the hub of their cryptocurrency, but I think only maybe 5 are right now. Regardless, we know it's from the US, we know it's out of Wyoming. And like you said, it didn't drop like a market asset. It just continues to steadily go up all the time. Now, when will it stop going up? I don't know. That's a speculation, right? We could speculate that. But the fact that it's still going up means even if I bought in yesterday, I'd be earning income today because it continues to go up. But also the fact that I have earned enough income, like you said, to send my girls to a private school that's so small that teaches a Christian curriculum that I was trying to teach at home. And I was able to cover that for the full year. I don't have to pay monthly payments, and I got a discount for paying early, but also to buy that bus. So what are we talking about crypto for? Not to become millionaires. We don't want to, maybe you do. Maybe you want to get a yacht and sail the seas. I don't want to get a yacht and go to Dubai and lay on the beach. What I want to do is be able to become self-sufficient and to a point where I actually don't need any currency anymore. But to get there, Duke, I have to be able to learn along the way. So buy a bus, build the bus. I'm going to have to buy materials when I want to build a house because I'm not necessarily ready to cut down trees and fashion my own 2x4s and 1x4s and things like that. So this is the ability to make my dreams happen a little bit sooner, my dreams being a lot of self-sufficiency and prepping, which is another reason I like cryptocurrency and gold and silver, because still to this day, you can argue this if you want to, but you're probably not going to win if you really look at it. It's still decentralized. No matter what they're saying they're going to do in the future, today it's still decentralized. And so when people say, well, what if the grid shuts down? I say it hasn't yet. If the grid shuts down, I won't have a YouTube channel anymore. If the grid shuts down, I won't be able to get into my bank account. If the grid shuts down, I'm probably not going to be able to drive my car anywhere because I'm not going to be able to get gas.
Right, so, but here's two things about that are interesting. First of all, the crypto life that we're talking about here, you can actually take those code numbers, download them onto a flash drive, throw it into your safe, And it's just like you got real money there. Nobody has access to it except you. And
Yep.
the other thing is that unlike all the rest of these bonehead states that are sitting around waiting for the federal government to do something,
Yeah.
Wyoming knows they're never going to, and they're hardening their own infrastructure there. So if there's a solar burst or a EMP or something like that, and the grid around the whole rest of the country goes down, Wyoming isn't going down. And guess where your crypto is stored? Wyoming, which
Right.
isn't going down.
Right. And if you say, well, I want this coin, but I don't want to store it with this company anymore, you can move it to any wallet you want to. And like you said, you can put it on a cold drive and you can put it away in your safe, like, keep it somewhere else. But the other reason is with self-sufficiency and things like this and decentralized income, it actually increases our ability to, so we have to use a dollar. And that's one thing that people kind of say, well, I have to use dollars and that's not going to buy me dinner. That's not going to do this. It actually can, because when you earn more from your cryptocurrency, it creates more dollars than your dollar, because a dollar is not going to create more dollars. Imagine if you put 30 years ago, 20 grand under the mattress or buried it in the backyard or in a safe. What is it worth today? Far less than what it was worth 20 years ago. And I'm talking even faster now. So let's just say if my crypto increases my purchasing power just in months, whereas gold and silver takes years, I think gold and silver is still a great idea. I still think that that's something I want to have in a safe put away, but it's not increasing my purchasing power in a short amount of time. This is doing it in just months. Maybe it's because everybody's interested. Maybe it's because it's like the hot topic. I'm not sure I
Well, if
care.
it is, get in on the ground floor and take advantage
Exactly.
of it.
That's
And the
right.
thing with silver and gold is that that's been the standard for so long. The billionaires know how to control it. They can
Yes.
do weird things with the market and drive the value way down so they can buy up all of it. They've done this stuff before. Or like in the 1930s, they can just say, oh, you can't have any gold anymore. You have to turn it all in.
And
So,
you can say that about crypto, but only the big ones. They're only doing that with Bitcoin. Like you said, Elon says, I don't like it, we're not taking it, it drops. But then he pushes Doge and it drops. I mean, how do you explain that one? And so
yeah,
you've got these coins that are out there, they're confusing, they're like volatile market assets, but they're able to control that because you get big people like Elon Musk talking about it. He's not getting out talking about iMoney crypto. And so it continues to steadily grow at a not even a slow pace. I bought in at 20 cents in December. It's today 33 cents and it's only August. So
yeah,
I've already almost doubled what I bought in at just by sitting on it and waiting not even a year. Imagine
yeah,
2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And that's why I think this is a great opportunity for anybody out there. If you have some extra money to invest in something, this is where I'd put it. I invested this spring and mine is like almost doubled already too. It's ridiculous how fast this is going up. And it keeps gaining speed because more people are buying it. And what is it? They sell 3 million crypto coin and then the value goes up a penny.
Right.
And it's happening faster and faster.
Faster and faster. It's in fact, it's kind of insane because it just went up to 33 cents and it's already 25% of the way to the next penny. And you could say, well, what's pushing the value? So I've had that question, what's pushing the value? Well, there's a lot of people it's just like Bitcoin. If people are interested in it, if people are buying into it, if people are using it as a currency, which they've created this one to be able to be used as, then it's going to have value because you can actually use it. In fact, I say they've gotten us away from the dollar because they've created a market where you can use this as currency instead of having to cash back into dollars before you buy something. So I could say, yeah, my crypto bought the bus, my crypto paid for school, but I had to cash it back into green dollars before I could pay for those things. But they're creating a market where you don't have to. If you want to buy some things, some clothes, some shoes, or a plane trip or a hotel, you can use it with the cryptocurrency they're creating, which was what it was meant for in the first place, to be a
Right.
currency, not a market asset.
So, and again, once some of these, spot of purchase retailers get set up for this, you've got like a crypto card, just like a debit card
Yeah,
that's got your crypto on it, and you can go bing, and it will do point of purchase, unlike Bitcoin that takes like how many hours to transfer?
10 to 12 hours. 10 to 12 hours. And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually already have that debit card and I could already do that. And so I want to know how to do all that stuff. So I got it and made sure I have it set up, but I haven't really used it for that yet because I've been able to cash it out to dollars. People are like, well, how do you cash out? I'm like, I can explain that too. So there are odd wallets out there where you can't cash out to dollars. It's like you start buying coins and tokens through it, and there's no way to cash out. You have to send it to another wallet. Isn't that crazy that there's wallets out there like that? That you open a wallet and they're like, oh, well, you can buy coins, but you can't cash out to dollars in case you actually want to buy something right now.
Yeah. That's the wallet you get for your tech not savvy kid that you want to save. So they can't spend any of it.
That's a good idea. Yeah, where they can get into it and buy stuff, but they can't sell it back out. They can trade it, they can buy, but they can't cash out. Well, maybe that's why those were created. Because I never thought about it like that. That'd be a good reason. That would be a good reason.
Here's your piggy bank. No, you can't break it. There's no hammer.
Well, and that's one of the reasons we stay stable is because we agree to lock our tokens in before we can sell them. So we agree for 6 months to lock them in. And I haven't looked recently, but the last time I looked, I had several hundred unlocked. Yes, I've moved them over. Yes, I figured out how to cash them out if and when I want to cash them to that debit card. And I haven't done that yet because I still want to watch and wait and see what it goes up to. I don't want to cash out yet.
Yeah.
I'm holding, man. I'm holding.
Yeah, well, some people might remember when, Bitcoin was a joke and people were like, here, I got 10 Bitcoin. You want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are they worth now?
Right, and that's all we're going for here is not necessarily to become the next Bitcoin, not necessarily buy yachts and sail the seas and go to Dubai and have, fancy meals all the time, but to help get more dollars, because I know how you know how I feel. I was sick of living off of just, running out of money at the end of. Now I got good at it. I got to where I was very good at living off of the amount of money I had every month and making sure I didn't overspend and run out too early. But I pretty much never had anything left at the end of the month. There was no saving going on. There was nothing like I could plan for our future. And now that's changed where I'm like, okay, now I actually have something that's going to be solid for the future. And I don't have to worry as much because I'm just living, off of every dollar I get. And that wasn't going to last forever because, to be completely transparent, $2,000 a month that I get is because I'm a widow and my husband's death brings in Social Security for me. I'm not going to get that forever, nor should I. I don't want to depend on that. I wanted to have a life where finally I could get an income that would supersede what I get from the government because my husband died. That covers most of our bills every month. And now I'm at that point where I said, okay, great. Now, if I get over that amount, I want to put that back into the community, whatever way that means, or put it back into my children or put it back into something else so that I've been accused of taking it as a government handout by my own family, not my parents, but my siblings. And it's like, well, I didn't, want him to die. And nor did I, that was an offer from them for the income that comes in. But the problem with it is that it became something that I depended on to cover my bills and to cover my home and our food. And this has changed that, Duke. And I have a video that I cried on so I won't cry here. But it was just, it moved me so much that I finally had found an income that would supersede something I had come to depend on, that I knew the government gives out to control us. I knew what it meant, and I wanted to get away from it, and now I can. And we can help other people do the same thing.
And that's the whole point of this, giving you options that are going to actually be hopefully a lot more stable than the other ones you've got right now, and a place that you can take some of your assets and make sure that other market fluctuations are not going to affect them. Because, fiat currency is a joke. It's only a matter of time until it's all gone. If you just sit there with what you've got in your bank, well, all of a sudden what you got in your bank won't be worth anything.
And if you can earn income with this, and if you can get more dollars, and it works out for you like it has for me, you being the general public, we're a no vax, no layoff, no mask, none of that. You can earn income if you want to, just off the crypto or just they do a referral bonus if you're interested. But if you earn income, we don't require masks, vaccinations, and nor do we lay off. So in a time of trouble, you'll still have an income. You'll still have a job. You'll still have, people didn't take me seriously when COVID hit. And I said, well, I have a job for you. People thought I was joking. I'm like, I'm not joking. My income went up because everybody had to, they were like, maybe I should get into what you're talking about now, Aaron. Maybe I should learn more about this. Maybe it's time. I'm like, you think? It took everybody getting locked down and losing their jobs before they started really considering another way of income besides the dollar.
Let me point this out from my own personal life experience. I'm not a spring chicken. kind of like on the old side. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, the ground was still hot. But anyway, I recall when I was a kid and the dinosaurs were still running around. Uh, what you could buy then for 3 pennies, for 3 cents, now cost you $1. That's how worthless our currency is. And it's not gaining value, it's losing value. If you're letting it sit there, you're losing value on your investment.
Yep. That's why I say leave your banks, because the banks, there used to be a time where they paid you interest to hold your money. Now they charge you if you don't have enough in the bank. Now they're like, oh, you don't have as much as we'd like you to have. That's going to be a whatever % fee every month. What?
Yeah, that's what get away from all the banks. Just go with a credit union. That's where I'm at anyway.
Me too.
Here's what the bankers can do. Sit on that and rotate. You're all scum.
Sit and spin, man.
Yeah, banksters. They're one of the main problems that's destroying the world right now.
Yeah, and that's why they don't like crypto, because it's another way. It's not centralized. It's not forced. I
think they fear crypto. Weren't you the one that was telling me about the one certain bank going, oh God, maybe we should get on board with this one because, oh my God.
It wasn't me, but I wouldn't be surprised what bank. That's why I think Wyoming did that, because they had not only led legislation for it, but the whole state voted for it. And even people my dad has a friend that lives in Wyoming who bought in that this crypto at like $500, and he didn't have a clue or any interest in crypto. But as soon as my dad said, well, it's out of Wyoming, he goes, oh yeah, we passed that legislation that was pro crypto. And he's like, yeah. The guy was like, yeah, I'm in.
Cowboy crypto. You gotta love it. You got gunslinging cowboys.
Yeah, he didn't. He just was like, "Oh yeah, we did pass that legislation. Okay, I'm in." I mean, it's great. Yeah. It's been
flag kissing, apple pie eating, mom hugging, lead slinging, crypto cowboys in Wyoming.
Yeah, I think they're probably better than Montana in a lot of ways. I have to say, Montana's getting a little blue in some places.
Yeah, it's true. Well, at least we don't have all the aliens like they have in Idaho, and I'm not talking about ones from across the border either.
And there's not a lot of land that you can actually buy in Idaho. And so it's really expensive to live there. So you've got a group of people that have a pretty good wealth and they've bought up a lot, but then a lot of it's like federal land. And so you can't even, it's very expensive to try to live there or buy or build or do anything. Whereas Montana is like vast. There's a lot of empty spaces and there is a lot of federal land, but nothing compared to like the size of Idaho. It's totally different.
Like I told Jimmy Church, we're in excess of the federal mandate on social distancing here in Montana, because our suggested social distancing is 1 square mile per person.
Yeah, we've been social distancing since we've been living here, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
To do. Even our cities aren't. I was driving downtown where I live today, which is the biggest city in Montana. And I think the traffic is worse where you live than it is here, because I'm driving downtown at like the top of the hour, almost 5 o'clock, and I'm like, geez, we don't even know what traffic is here. I'm only like 3 cars deep at a stoplight, and I'm kind of getting all impatient. I'm like, go, what's taking so long? Man, I'm like, it really only takes me like 5 whole minutes to get through downtown at near 5 o'clock. So
well, how big is downtown? Like 12 blocks or something? It should only take about 5 minutes.
From where I was going, it probably wasn't even that. I'm going like just from this place where I got some flyers made to the south side, because I live on the other side of the tracks. I'm dangerous, folks. Look out. I live on the south side, but just to get there is like probably not even 12 blocks. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's like more like 6 to 8. And I'm like, oh, what's this traffic about? I'm like, only 3 cars deep. I'm like, just never mind. There's not traffic here.
Yeah, Aaron's new rap album will be coming out shortly. Aaron with Attitude, straight out of South Billings.
Oh, yeah. Talking about cryptids and crypto. Because now that I have the experience with Bigfoot, sort of, just in my pictures from the background, got a whole rap song.
Because they're like photobombing you, which is what they usually do.
I'll be like, they photobomb me because I can't do it off the fly. I'm going to have to practice a little bit, but I'm going to throw it in there. And be like, cryptids for crypto, south side. But what I hear is I'm only I'm only over one side of the tracks. There's 2 sets of tracks. If you're over the second set, you're really in some scary territory. So we're just half scary.
Okay. Only the slightly dangerous area, not the really, really dangerous
Yeah,
area.
it's really dangerous
Very
on
good. The
second.
gangbanger cowboys.
You know, there's actually a pretty good mix of people on the south side because for some reason, many years ago, several actual literal Mexicans, so they're from Mexico, came into Billings, Montana, and they've created a whole, you know, family system down here kind of on the south side. And they all know each other. A lot of them related. And they have this really neat festival every year that shows a culture that I didn't grow up with or understand. So I would come down on I think once or twice a year they would have this little festival on the south side, and I'd come down, and it was just neat. I mean, they had great food, great clothing, great products, and it helped the community. And where I live is actually turned into a pretty nice area. It used to, when I moved here, people were like, "Be careful," and I'm like, "Of what? Like seriously, they're just people." But there is more chance of a transient walking by your house here than if you lived on the west end. But it's just turned into a really cool neighborhood where a lot of people know each other. They tend to look out for each other. And I actually prefer it to anywhere I've lived in this town. It's just full of culture and just diversity, which is, I know, a leftist thing, which I hate that it's become that. But it is fun to have diversity when you're not doing it from a racist standpoint. Let's say
Yeah.
you're doing it from a standpoint of, it's neat to hang out with people who look at the world differently. It's neat to see people who grew up differently and share that experience.
Yeah. Well, basically, if it wasn't for the fact that Montana is full, we'd be inviting more people to live
Yeah.
here. But it's really full. You see bumper stickers all the time that say that too. Montana's full. I hear the Dakotas are nice though.
Yeah. You go to Idaho. All that stuff I
Yeah.
just said. In fact, what I meant to say is Idaho is way less expensive than Montana, so head
Yeah,
there.
totally awesome. And they never had any mask mandates in the Dakotas, even though it's flatter. There's none of that there. It's freer than Montana. You should go
South
there.
Dakota. Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, South Dakota's got the beautiful Christy Noem running the show over there, and you want her for your governor because Montana's full. You don't want.
Yeah.
We're
You don't want
required by
Gianforte at
Montana
all.
state law
Get out of
to
here.
tell people not to move here.
And you're also required, by the way, if you do move here and you're on a side road or you're driving in the mountains or you're on a dirt road anywhere and you do not wave at the other car, we have the right to follow you and teach you a lesson, just so you know. So if you do come here, you have to wave.
It's the Montana good neighbor law. It basically says if you aren't a good enough neighbor to even wave back when somebody waves at you, they're legally obligated to run you down and beat the crap out of you until you learn to be a good neighbor.
Just ask Mike. He's when he's going to tell you all about it too, because he is very familiar with that law.
This is an inside joke when we were up there camping because we were right next to the main road going into the valley and vehicles would come back and forth. And we were telling Robin, well, no, everybody up here is friendly. They have to wave back by law. It's the Montana good neighbor law. Don't you have that over in Billings? So we're like waving and everybody's waving back. And she's like, you guys, what's going on here?
And then so we had to take it a step further, right?
Yeah.
We did. We were like, so if they don't, we're going to follow them, and then we get to beat them up, and we get to tell them, you better wave next time. It's the law.
Yeah, and it's all totally legal for us to do it because you didn't wave back.
Yeah, so you better do it.
Yeah, and if you want to come on vacation here in Montana, you damn better wave when somebody waves to you here in Montana.
Now, as you get more towards the highways and stuff, you're less obligated to do so because it's just a little too busy.
But
there's more than one car at a time.
Out in the middle of nowhere and somebody waves, oh, God help you if you don't wave back.
Just do it. Just do it. Even if it feels weird, put your friendly wave on.
Be on the safe side. Yep. The life you save could be your own.
Even if it's just a little.
Or even if you just go, like that. Even one finger. The Minnesota wave, you can do that.
Even the nod isn't enough. You got to do more than the nod. You got to put up at least one finger or a hand.
Yeah. Okay, now that we've schooled everybody on Montana etiquette, and we're totally kidding.
Yes, we are. We're not going to beat you up this time.
Except for about how full Montana is. The place is packed. There's no place to live.
No room.
Yeah. That scene behind Aaron, that's over in the Dakotas where the gorgeous
Governor Christy that's where you want to go.
That's where you want to go.
Trail?
Over that hill, that's where Sturgis is. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a bunch of bikers right over there.
You can hear them.
Yeah. They're having a great time. Go have a beer with them. It's free.
Go have a beer with them.
I hear there's some good bands.
Right on. Well, I guess that about covers it for this, and I certainly hope that you get a chance to come back out and do some more Bigfooting with us. If not this year, but maybe next year. You'll have your little mini house all ready to go. Your house on
I hope
wheels.
so. It is drivable, by the way. I did take out a bunch of heaters and AC units, which means I had to drain some radiator fluid, and then I realized that Freon turns into gas and in your face if you're not careful when you cut through the hose. Anyway, I survived that, but I had to figure out how to loop my radiator, so the radiator fluid flows out to the heaters and then comes back in through these hoses. And I had to figure out how to loop that up, and I did it. I started the bus and it didn't overheat. And so it was drivable to begin with, but after all the work I've done, it's still drivable.
Yay!
So that's exciting. I haven't destroyed the engine yet.
Going in the right direction. Make sure to always consult with an actual mechanic before making radical changes to your bus.
You mean not YouTube?
There's probably some actual mechanics on there, but good luck figuring out which is which,
I did consult YouTube to figure out what I just did, by the way. So, but it worked out.
Uh-oh. Well, sometimes they're right.
Well, I did. So my buddy that I bought the bus from, and I did call him and ask him for a manual because you just can't go online and get one for buses. You have to have like special permission. So I'll be hopefully getting that manual. And yeah, I'm not trying to keep you any longer than normal, but did want to mention that it's coming along. So I'm hoping by next year it'll even have some maybe functionality, a bathroom, maybe a bed, maybe even a kitchen sink. So pray for me.
Right on. And she's doing updates on this as she's working on the bus. She's doing little video updates. So you can check those out on her channel. You can check out the Solomon Report every weekend with NPC. And the Solomon Report, if you're like a fan of Gary Wayne or something, you really want to watch the Solomon Report. It's awesome. As a matter of fact, Gary Wayne's been on her show a couple times. She's had some very interesting guests. And like I said at the beginning, go back and check out her catalog of conspiracy videos that she made a little bit further back, that are all still pretty extremely relevant and well done and slick and everything, and like look better in general.
You're making me feel good about myself.
Yeah, you're gonna want to go check that out. And then the other thing is in the description below the video, I will put link for you also to go over to her channel and check out full-length presentation on CryptoCoin. So if you are wise enough that you decide to invest, you will know where to go to get more information. And she will tell you all about that. She's more than happy to help you out personally, too, if you need help. And with that, thank you for being with us. Thank you for camping with us. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing the crypto coin with me because, hey, I'm making money off it. And I hardly have anything. So I really need to make money somewhere. And if you guys like my show, you might want to send me some money, too, because it's 100% viewer funded. I am not monetized in any way. PayPal.me/World Bigfoot Central. The address is up on the screen.